This lesson is RI 6.3 and it is about elaboration. The only word that you need to know today is the word elaborate, which is a verb, and as a noun becomes elaboration. To elaborate is to expand on an idea by giving more information. There are different ways that an author can elaborate. Here are examples through a tree map. Make sure you're copying it down in your notes. One way that an author can elaborate is by giving an example. An example is a model or an instance of something meant to explain and add information. You often see examples because an author says, for example. You can also elaborate on an idea by using an anecdote. An anecdote is a brief story, that means short story, that illustrates an idea or situation. By illustrate, they just mean show, not a picture. So an anecdote is a story that shows the situation or the idea. An author may also elaborate by giving quotations. Quotations are relevant information that comes directly from a source. Relevant means it's related to the main idea. And another way that an author can elaborate is by showing or giving data. Data are things like statistics, graphs, and specific numbers that illustrate the point being made. Go ahead and make sure you have this tree map before you move. Let's go ahead and read this paragraph to help us practice with elaboration. Here we go. We're going to look at how the author introduces George Washington and then elaborates so that we can better understand his life and his purpose. On April 30th, 1789, George Washington, standing on the balcony of Federal Hall on Wall Street in New York, took his oath of office as the first president of the United States. As the first of everything, our situation will serve to establish a precedent, he wrote James Madison. It is devoutly wished on my part that these precedents may be fixed on true principles. Born in 1732 into a Virginia planter family, Washington learned the morals, manners, and body of knowledge required for an 18th century Virginia gentleman. He pursued two intertwined interests, military arts and Western expansion. At 16, he helped survey Shenandoah lands for Thomas, Lord Fairfax. Commissioned a lieutenant colonel in 1754, he fought the first skirmishes of what grew into the French and Indian War. The next year, as an aide to General Edward Braddock, he escaped injury, although 4 bullets ripped his coat and 2 horses were shot from under him. Let's go ahead and answer our next series of questions. The first question asks us, what is the purpose of the quotation in the first paragraph? Let's go back and look at the first paragraph. The quotation said, as the first of everything, our situation will serve to establish a precedent, he wrote James Madison. It is devoutly wished on my part that these precedents may be fixed on true principles. This was written by George Washington. So I think that this quotation shows us directly how George Washington is feeling. So I'll say the quotation. So we're writing the quotation shows how George Washington feels. Our next question asks us, what example does the author use to elaborate on his statement that Washington intertwined interests, military arts, and Western expansion? I need to look at the section where it says he intertwined these two. And it's this last paragraph where it says, he pursued 2 intertwined interests, military arts and Western expansion. At 16, he helped survey Shenandoah lands for Thomas, Lord Fairfax, and then commissioned a lieutenant colonel in 1754. He fought the first skirmishes of what grew into the French and Indian War. The next year, as an aide to General Edward Braddock, he escaped injury, although 4 bullets ripped his coat and 2 horses were shot from under him. So it looks like they're giving me some different examples of how he has intertwined the two. So the example where he has intertwined interests, I see that one is that he surveyed the lands, and then he also fought in the war. So I'll say he surveyed. Surveying is like scouting them out. The land, and fought in the war. Okay. Our next question asks us, what is the anecdote does the author give in the last paragraph? So what is the story that they tell in the last paragraph? It looks like they talk about how he escaped injury and 4 bullets ripped his coat and 2 horses were shot below him. So they give the story of he escaped injury when he was fighting, even though his clothes and horse were fought or shot. Before we answer the next question, the scavenger hunt item for this lesson is Miss Lopez. All right, let's take a look now at question number 4. Which types of elaboration does the author use in this passage? Well, I saw it already. The author uses quotations. That was when Washington was writing the letter to Madison. The author also used anecdotes or stories and examples. And we talked about each of those different types of elaboration in the other questions. If you feel confident now that you've mastered elaboration, you're ready to demonstrate it and prove it on our exit slip. Go ahead and answer these questions. You have 2 questions, one that is short answer and one that is multiple choice. Thank you for participating in today's lesson.